Hello and welcome back to the channel. Here we are going to be working on just a little gap here and just how to properly fix this gap. Now, it's only about 2 to 3 millimeters, and this is something that may seem really simple to people who have been paper piecing for years, but to somebody who's new, this can be pretty terrifying to see, and just being worried that, it's going to ruin your entire quilt. So first, what we're going to do is, we're trying to join these two pink pieces together. And the most important part is making sure that we get the starting point absolutely perfect. So we want to make sure that those pieces, the point right where my thumb here is that that is like absolutely aligned. The end where the green is not necessarily as important right now because we do have that gap. So do not worry if you see a little bit of kind of like a gap or gaping there, or if there's something that just doesn't look right, because as you sew, it's gonna self-adjust. And I do apologize for whatever reason. I did not record the start of me sewing, but this video isn't to be teaching you how to sew the paper pieces. It's entirely too fast for that. So do not hesitate, and try to follow it as far as that is concerned. We will do other videos walking through, step by step on how to start your knots, how to sew. So here you're just going to see, me sewing right along as you would any other paper piece. Like I said, we are not too worried about the end. It is going to naturally fix a lot of that hole on its own. And whenever we get to the end, we are going to fix anything that's kind of remaining there. Now, you will see here in, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, where I am going to fix where the front piece is kind of starting to fall down some. So we want to make sure these pieces stay perfectly in line. And what happens when there is a little hole and a gaping area there is the pieces will kind of slide apart, and one's going to go a little bit higher, one's going to go a little bit lower. So you want to make sure that each time that you're sewing another piece, so you're going to see it here, where I just kind of lift up that front paper piece and the fabric a little bit, because I want to make sure that I am perfectly able to just bite one end, bite the other end, and sew right through it. Here, as we get towards the end, is where we need to worry about the hole. So a lot of it has already fixed itself, but you will see where there's just a little bit of an opening there. And yes, you could tie your knot and just go on your way and just have the teeny tiniest little hole, but I actually like to close that up completely. And how I do that is I will sew as closely as I can on the two pink pieces. And then what I will do is I will take a little bite of the pink piece that's where the green and the two pinks combine. There's also another pink paper piece right there that is kind of hard to see. I'm biting through it right now. I will bite through that one, and then I will kind of tie it off here. And what I do is, as I'm pulling the paper piece closed, or as I'm pulling the thread closed, you just go right underneath your thread, and that's gonna do a little basic tie. And then right here, I went back one stitch, and I'm going to loop it around twice around my needle, and then I'm going to pull that through too. And that's going to be another form of tying off my needle. And then I always like to go back and kind of backtrack 2 or 3 stitches just to make sure that everything stays nice and tight. But if you look, there is no longer a hole right there. So simply just, sewing as we did there was definitely helpful, but then grabbing and biting from the piece beside it was also really helpful to pull that together. And that's going to be a big deal whenever you go to open it, and you won't be able to see that hole. And it also is going to make everything kind of aligned right where the point should be. So you'll see here, our point looks pretty good. You can't see that big hole that, would have otherwise been there. And then whenever you go to sew the next row around, there should be no issues at all. So there it is. That's everything.